Thanks for joining us again, folks. This is a fun one for me today because I talk about music and listen to music, and I'm just a fan of music all day, every day anyway. So I'm happy. Any chance I get to talk about my favorite players is exciting for me. I see a question about what I'm using there just on the intro. I'll just say that quickly. The only thing I'm using pedal-wise there for the tone is my Supreme pedal from Mad Professor. It's just on very slightly, just a little bit of drive. And other than that, it's my 61 Strat into my 2-Rock Classic Reverb. Oh, and a little slapback delay, but I'm not really a big pedally person these days. The Supreme does it, and a little delay and reverb, and then try and play the guitar as well as I can, you know? So that's a quick answer to that. So let's get into some influences and things like that. I'll start right at the beginning. When I was 11 years old, well, I'd grown up hearing my dad's vinyl records. He would always be playing some Blues Muddy Waters and stuff like that, and B.B. King. I already knew who B.B. King was when I was a kid, and then I was about 11. He relocated to the US from the UK, and he left me a VHS cassette that he taped a performance of B.B. King at Newcastle Town Hall in the UK. I think 84, the performance is from. It's actually on YouTube now, in the depths of YouTube somewhere. I'll put it in the forum along with some other videos that I've been putting up for everybody. But it was a video of B.B. King and his band live, and I would watch that every morning before going to school from 11 years old. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I wasn't playing. There was a guitar around, a little nylon string thing that I had, but I'd never got going with it. I didn't know what to do with it, but I would just sit mesmerized watching BB, and I thought, well, how am I ever going to do this? I don't know what he's doing, you know. And so I got a bass first, then because I thought, well, maybe I could. He had a great bass player, Russell Jackson, who I've been lucky enough to meet since then, and I thought maybe I could play bass for somebody like B.B. King or in B.B. King's band. So I'm 11 years old at this point, 12 years old. And so I got a bass, but still wanted to be B.B. King. But I just didn't. It was so majestic and like so far from achievable at that point in my mind. But I pursued it, and then I got a cassette tape from my dad. So we're talking about 1989 here. He posted a cassette tape, and it was Eric Clapton's Journeyman album, because I liked a bit of Eric Clapton as well. If you're starting to get into guitar, he's an obvious person to immediately check out. So he sent me, that was his brand new album, Journeyman. Still one of my favorite Clapton albums, actually. But on the side B, he put Stevie Ray Vaughan doing Voodoo Child from his Live Alive album. I'd never heard of Stevie Ray Vaughan before, and I was like, holy crap, what is this? I've never heard anybody play like this. So I go out to visit my dad that summer, and he's also videotaped this performance. It's already in the forum. I put it up last night for everybody. And it's B.B. King, Stevie Ray, and Albert Collins all playing at New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival in 1988. And that was it. I was like, this is what I have to do. I have to be one of these guys. And what struck me at the time, first of all, was like how they all sounded completely different, you know, and yet all amazing. It was like there's not even a way to say he's the best or he's the... They were just three human beings having a great time playing together. And right then I thought, well, if I want to do this, I'd have to be able to play... I'd have to sound like something different as well if I wanted to stand next to him, if that makes sense. Like, okay, I want to be like all of them, but also none of them specifically, you know? So that was it. That video, that performance. I went back to school and started a band right then. So I'm 13 years old, just turned 13. Stevie Ray died that summer, actually, a couple of weeks after I'd first seen that video. So that somehow gave this extra impetus to go and do this. It seemed like, well, I really got to do it now when you're 13 years old. So I got a band together. One friend says, I'll play blues. One friend says, I'll play bass, I'll play drums, and that was it. So I started playing with bands right from that point. And just dove headlong into into it. So it was BB first. I had Muddy Waters' Hard Again record. That's a really, really great record that was produced by Johnny Winter. And it's a wonderful sounding record, and you can just hear the love in the album that Johnny just wants to make Muddy sound the best he's ever sounded, you know? And it really does. It's wonderful. It's Muddy's band with Johnny and a couple of Connecticut musicians, recorded in Connecticut. So that Muddy Waters' Hard Again would be a really important album for me. The B.B. King record that I had to start with was an album called There's Always One More Time, which is more of a poppy kind of, late 80s B.B. album. But pretty soon after that, I got, my dad, I would tape all my dad's vinyl records and then take them back to England. So I had Live at Cook County Jail, which was the first one, which is mostly slow blues on that, but incredible tone and phrasing. And so then I had a couple of the Stevie Ray albums, but my dad said, if you love Stevie Ray, then you need to listen to Albert King, because that's what Stevie's doing. So he sent me a tape of Albert King stuff, and it was all the Stax records era. So that would be the Born Under a Bad Sign record, and another favorite of mine would be Years Gone By. That's a really, really great album with Sky Is Crying on it and tracks like that. Also with all Memphis bands, all Memphis sounds. So then I'm like all the way in with those guys. And of course, at the same time, my dad wasn't a Hendrix fan, but because I'm getting into this kind of stuff, I'm finding out about that. And then I realized with Stevie's getting it from Hendrix. And I think I had Voodoo Child on a Best of the 60s compilation. And that's actually where I learned the pentatonic scale, because I was sat there with my little nylon string guitar trying to figure out the intro to Voodoo Child. My ears were very immature at the time, so I learnt it an octave up by accident, going. That was my first ever lick that I figured out, was from the intro of Voodoo Child. And then I was like, hang on. That sort of sounds like BB as well, and if I put a bend in there and some vibrato, it's starting to sound like, well, kind of everybody. And so I accidentally learned the pentatonic, minor pentatonic, from trying to figure out the intro to Voodoo Child by ear.